My name is Malek from Knack Training, and today's Everyday Office video is a continuation of the previous one about pivot tables. Today we're going to talk about the different ways that you can present your data, different things that you can do in terms of your calculations and presentation of the numbers. So if you want to follow along with the actual spreadsheet, you can click the link in the description to be able to download today's course file. And but really it's just a normal set of data that's got a little bit of categories in it and a little bit of numbers in it. So really anything will work here. So what we're going to do first is, again, tell ourselves a story about this data. The thing I'm thinking is that we want to know, based off what department people work in, things about their salary. How many of them there are, what salary we're paying them, what the average salary is, etc. So we can click somewhere on the data, go to the Insert tab up at the top of the screen, and choose Pivot Table from the left-hand side. When you choose Pivot Table from the left-hand side, it asks you the question, did I properly select the data? Yes, it did. And should I put this in a new blank worksheet? Seems like a good idea because, again, separating out the raw data from the presentation of the report is generally a good idea. It helps keep things siloed in people's heads and keeps them from touching things they shouldn't. So I'll hit OK here and make a new blank pivot table. Onto this new blank pivot table, what I need to do is I need to break the information down by what department people work in. And so I'll just go ahead and click the checkbox here for department. And if I know that I want to do calculations based off salary, I can just go in here and click the checkbox for salary. And as you can see, by default, it's now taken that salary column, it's added the salary column together, and it's got it broken down by what department everybody works in. But there are a lot of things I might decide to do with this that go above and beyond the simple level of calculation. So I'll begin, of course, by using the drop-down menu in the Values box to be able to choose Value Field Settings. If I click on the Value Field Settings, you'll see here that I can change the custom name to something like Total Salary, for example. And instead of these raw numbers with no commas, periods, or dollar values in here, I'll click on Number Format, and I'll just choose an accounting format as a nice, clean way of presenting data that's supposed to be currency. So I'll hit OK and hit OK, and that's our first level of display and calculation in our pivot table. From here, I can see that we're spending the most on our sales team and the least on our admin staff. But one thing this isn't telling us is how many admin staff there are, how many salespeople there are. It's possible that we're only spending more on sales staff because we have more salespeople. Or it's possible that we have the same number of salespeople as admin staff. We just pay them 3 times more than the admin staff. So let's find this out by doing a different type of calculation. If I wanted to do a count, I can count literally anything in a pivot table. Any one of these fields can be the field that's counted. So I'll just grab one of these simple fields here like last name. Now I can't click the checkbox for last name because Excel is going to assume that by clicking on the last name checkbox, I want that to go into the rows field. So instead of clicking the checkbox for last name, I'll click and drag last name into the values box and let go. This allows me to have the count of the last name, and as you can see, it's counted up how many employees there are from each of the different departments. Now, count of last name is probably not what I'm looking for here, so once again, I'll click on the drop-down menu down here for the entry that I just dropped in and choose Value Field Settings, and I'll put in here simply number of employees. There you go. So here side by side we have 2 perfectly fine raw numbers. We have the raw salary that we pay out to the sales staff, and we have the raw number of people who are in the sales staff. But neither of these gives us much in the way of simple to digest information. It's going to be difficult for me to mentally compare $2.5 million from human resources for 27 employees against $4.1 million for production for 50 employees. In fact, I have almost no capacity to do that math on the fly. So what we're going to get at here is things like averages and also percentages. So what I'll do first is I'll figure out what the average salary is in addition to the total salary. To do this, since the salary field is already in the values box, what we do is we grab the salary field again and drag it into the values box alongside total salary. And you can see here that, again, it just does a total salary side by side. But I can now click where it says the sum of the salary in the bottom right-hand corner. Choose value field settings and switch this out to an average, right? So change the custom name to, let's say, AVG salary, something like that. Oops, AVG salary. Click on number format and format it as accounting maybe again, and click OK. And click OK. And so here is more context. I have the average salary paid out to each department. I have the number of employees from each department, and I have the total salary from each department. These are definitely good numbers. But again, I have a hard time mentally comparing $94,000 to $101,000. How much more is $101,000 than $67,000, than $94,000, than $83,000? These things are difficult to manage in my head. So once again, what I can do is take that exact same salary value, drag it into the values box again, but this time around, instead of showing it as this raw number here, what I'm going to do is go to where it says the sum of the salary, click the little drop-down menu and choose value field settings here. And now I'm going to switch over to show values as. So I have the running total in the sum. What I'm going to do is click on show values as, and I'm going to tell it to run a different type of calculation. I want it to take the grand total and compare each of these values against the grand total and tell me what percentage of the grand total this salary happens to be. So I click on that entry, percent of grand total, and I go up here to the top and maybe do percent of salary, for example. Then click OK. And you can see here that now I can look at $4.6 million and know that that makes up 28.9% of our salary that's being paid out. I can look at $1.49 million and realize that that's 9% of the salary that's being paid out. That gives me more valuable insight into what these numbers really mean. And I would argue that beyond the shadow of a doubt, seeing that something is 29% of the total is much, much more insightful than seeing that it's $4.6 million and having to compare $4.6 million against $15.9 million. That is a very difficult mental calculation there, made easy by dragging the salary field in again, and this time showing it as a percent of the grand total. So as you work in a pivot table, really feel empowered to go in here to reformat the numbers, to recalculate the numbers, and even to show it as a running calculation. You'll see here if I drag salary in one more time, click on sum of sales and choose value field settings. Another way that we can display the values, show values as, is as a percentage of the running total. Click OK. And there you can see that there's 9.38%. And then if you add that to human resources, that's 25.32%. Then if you add that to information technology, and if you add that to production, and then when you add sales in, it comes to 100%. as a running total, right? So you have lots and lots of different presentations of this data. Experiment with the one that actually tells the story the cleanest way possible.